Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 19 of Mic Drop. As always, I'm joined by Katie.
Hello.
I was going to say we're missing Nisha on this one, which is quite sad as always, but
Mm.
I think I'm going to start off with my topic. And basically, so I think on Saturday it was 4th of July, not American, but I had a reason to celebrate because probably as you guys know, I'm a massive Beyonce fan. And she actually released an unreleased track. Kind of within the community, it was known as Donk, but now it's called Morning Dew Donk. And it was kind of like during this, it kind of came out like 2013. It was for that Beyonce self-titled album, and kind of was always in the subsection of being an unreleased track. Obviously, quite randomly, she just dropped it on obviously the 4th of July. And apparently it's for this run up to B-Day, the 20th anniversary of that album. But it kind of just got me thinking about unreleased tracks because every single artist has an unreleased track or a lot that just, you can't really find on their Spotify or their streaming platforms or any of the albums they make. But there's always a subsection of a community, and I feel like it could go one of two ways where fans really enjoy those tracks and kind of wanted to keep it this little niche, like unheard of. But then other times they get released, like the wider world, and it's amazing. And then one example I immediately thought of one time it backfired was Doechie's Anxiety. I remember a lot of people wanted that to come out, and it quite didn't. But Katie is like, what are your thoughts on unreleased tracks? Should they be out for everyone to listen to, or kind of just for this like niche community in a way of that fan base?
I really, really feel both. I think there is something really nice in having songs that are exclusive to live performance. Because I think the more the world gets digital, the less things are just precious in that live moment because everything becomes more accessible. Um, but I know, like the last dinner party have had a song called Big Dog that they've played at gigs for years, and it's only just come out like a few weeks ago. And I think that built up so much hype. People were so excited for it because it was something that a lot of their fans were familiar with. So finally have it like something they can listen to on their headphones was just, they didn't need to do any promo and basically all built itself. But then also thinking back to a Big Thief concert I went to a couple of years ago, there was a song on the set there that I've only ever seen really tiny snippets of on YouTube. It's not something they've ever released, and it's not even a song they played that much at gigs. And I thought it was one of the most beautiful songs ever written. I'm not even sure it had a title, but it was about like being shunned for being gay when you were younger, basically. And even though I'd love to have that song on Spotify, it just makes that memory of hearing it live so much more special because I know it was just one of those one off experiences and I happened to be there at that gig. And I think it's also really nice to have that memory to hold on to. So you get a bit of both, really good and bad either way.
Yeah, and I like when you mentioned of like artists playing them live before actually releasing them, it made me think of Subway by Chapel Roan. Because I remember she played that for like a year and a half before it was actually fully released, and she was begged by fans to release this track. But there's always like a different feeling of hearing a song live, never mind a song that's not even like you can't hear it anywhere else. It's like a one-stop shop of like, wow, like I can hear it here and only here. And it's like nice trying to trace back through the memories to chase where you first heard the song, and yeah, like that like connection that you have, that memory of hearing it for the first time. It doesn't even have a name. Who knows about this song? um but for it to kind of, but yeah, and then for it to go out to the wider world, it is a weird feeling because it almost feels so personal and so close, and now it's kind of like just open for everyone else to see.
I think, yeah, because obviously as artists get bigger and everyone has more access to artists, I feel like fan bases get bigger, and it's quite rare now that if you're a really dedicated fan or if you're, love them enough to go see them live, that you have these really special moments that aren't going to be replicated elsewhere. So I think it can just be a really beautiful moment.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's kind of like that proactive listening with an unreleased track because because I normally use Apple Music to stream songs. Like, I'll have to go to YouTube to
Mm.
specifically listen to that song. And I think it's like, I enjoy it more because I'm proactively going after this unreleased track. Whereas that Beyonce song in a couple months' time, that could just slip on in my playlist and I won't even like fathom the fact like this is new, like she's almost returning and almost just the original version of it. So I think it will like over time that song will change for me because I'm not actively seeking it or actively listening to it. And it kind of almost not like ruins the intimacy but of like that connection I once had.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's always interesting why a track's unreleased as well, like why artists love it enough to write it and perform it sometimes, but not record it. If it's just to do with the fact that it doesn't fit into an album, or if maybe there's another reason, maybe it's something really personal, or they're just not ready to have it out into the world. I think that's a really interesting side of it as well.
Yeah, kind of that story of why they haven't shared it, but they've made it. Because at the end of the day, these artists aren't doing it for the money. They're not doing it for their career. They're doing it because they enjoy what they're making. So to almost have this like little collection off to the side, it's like a forbidden library. Like it's like a forbidden section that you can't reach to. It's the archives, essentially, because it is so precious to them. And then maybe for it to be to the wider world is just a whole different experience for them.
Exactly. I think it's a really nice reminder that these big stars are musicians as well. They're not just people who are selling things to you. They're people that are making things that they genuinely believe in and genuinely love creating. And I think it's nice to think that it's not always just tied into what they can sell to people.
Yeah, because I feel like when a new album's coming out, it's like an artist is promoting it. Sometimes they'll say like, "Oh, we had 50, 60 tracks for this 11 track album." You know,
Yeah.
like there is so much that goes into it and so much that just won't see the light of day.
Yeah, and it shows you just the amount of effort as well. I think sometimes people are a bit surprised if they've not been through the process themselves and how long it can take to put an album out there. But when you think about how many hours they're spending pouring into these songs, it really shows you why it's quite a lengthy process.
Yeah, especially when they are dedicating time to songs that won't be fully released unless they decide to. Maybe, as you said earlier, didn't fit the album, didn't fit the vibe. But it's
Exactly.
like they still cared enough to make it in the first place.
Exactly. And not to bring up the last dinner party, which I seem to bring up every episode, but I know like with one of the songs on their latest album, when Abigail wrote it, she wrote it like she wrote the main melody basically a long time ago and just put it to the side because she couldn't think of like a good chorus to follow it. And it wasn't until years later that she revisited it and, you know, was in a space in her life that she felt like she could write something that justified it. And I think that's really exciting as well. It just shows that music's a long process and things pop up in different times of your life and not everything's ready to be out there straight away.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of explains the creative industry as a whole of like it will come at you at different phases of your life where you can develop and create more to maybe something that wasn't suited at first.
Exactly. And it keeps it so human as well. I know we talked a lot about AI recently, but it's just such a human way of creating art. That
Yeah. And I mean, you've mentioned the last dinner party, and recently you saw them live in concert.
yeah.
So would you just tell me about that?
Yeah, so just on Sunday, I went to see them in Finsbury Park. It was like a big gig. It was Wolf Alice headlining, who are my second favorite band, I would say. So it was like probably one of the best days of my life. Like I just had an amazing time. But one of the things that really stuck with me, and I think this is particularly because I've been playing like guitar since I was about 7 years old, and specifically like lead guitar things. And as a woman playing electric guitar, it's not something that's that massively represented. And I know it sounds a bit prehistoric to praise women for playing guitar, but I think in that particular field of like, if you've seen The Last Dinner Party, or if you've heard Wolf Alice, there's some quite heavy riffs and some really quite rocky atmospheric stuff going on there, and I think it's still quite rare to see that represented on stage being played by women. And I just know when I learned to play guitar, like I loved it, but all of the lessons I did when I was when I was younger, I was the only girl in the lessons, and I know that I was told that I was playing too gently or not playing with enough attack, and I also just felt a bit alienated from the whole tech world as well. Like I couldn't get my head around pedal boards and sounds and all of that stuff as easily. So I think there was just something really beautiful about seeing these women on the stage taking up that space. And just on the other side of it as well, I know that women are often really scrutinised for their musicianship. They seem to be really easily accepted as singers, but when it comes to playing instruments, they're often accused a bit of having them there as a prop. And I thought it was really interesting with Ellie, who's the singer of the last in no, she's not the singer of Wolf Alice, that she decided with this album that she didn't need to keep proving herself with this guitar. She felt like she'd broken the stereotypes, and now she wanted to focus on her voice. And it's really nice that she feels like she can move into that space now, and that there's other women, representing that side, and now she can focus on the next stage of her artistry. So I just thought it was all really well represented, and I had a great time, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just starting to wrap my head around the idea of women and them using instruments as more of a prop, because I've never really heard about that before, but I'm also not in that like space.
Yeah, I think so. Often it's particularly like lead singers of bands, because it often goes together, doesn't it? If you're singing, you're playing the rhythm guitar. Um, and they just quite often come under these accusations of they're not really playing that guitar, they're playing a chord every now and then. They're just analysed and expected to be like otherworldly on the guitar in a way that I think male front singers often aren't. They're allowed to just sing, or they're allowed to have a guitar there to play occasionally, but I think people just think that women can't play guitar for some reason. It's just something that's really scrutinized.
Yeah, because I feel like in like a wider society aspect, when you think of like women playing instruments, it's kind of the softer orchestral vibes. But obviously, you mentioned the
Mm.
heavier riffs, like the more like louder undertones. And when you were t told to like not be so gentle, it is kind of like this development of we're seeing women play these different types of music and different instruments.
Exactly. And I think in the past, obviously, punk bands as well, like the Riot Girl era, that was such a massive thing. And it's really great that we had that. And I think those are really important women. But I think it's also nice to look at bands like Wolf Alice and The Last Dinner Party now, where they're still very feminine. And it's not that you have to be, but it's nice that you're also allowed to be in this space and be taken seriously now when you're wearing a dress, when you're wearing makeup. You don't necessarily have to lean into this grungy aesthetic and this more like typically masculine aesthetic. Now it feels like there's more of a space for all kinds of women in that kind of music, which is just really great to see.
Yeah, and what is it like for you? What has it meant as someone who plays the guitar and has grown up almost being alienated, being separated from everything? What has it meant to you to like see that on stage?
It was just absolutely amazing. And they're very like, both of them are very like guitar solo heavy bands, so it's just, I can't even describe how good it was to so it's just inspiring. Like, I got home after a 3 hour train drive, and the first thing I did was pick up my guitar, just because it just was so inspiring. That's all I wanted to do, despite how
Yeah,
tired I was. So yeah, it was just otherworldly, really.
I was gonna say, so obviously we're hoping for more women to pick up the guitar and
Absolutely, yeah.
more women to get on stage and carry that on because I know with concerts that I've mainly been to, they have been predominantly male bands.
Definitely.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's quite a short one today without Nisha, so we're missing her very much, very dearly. But that is episode 19 of Mic Drop, and thank you for listening. As always, check out our website, our social medias, and that will be us, and you'll hear from us next week.
See you later.
Bye bye.